Imagine you are standing on the deck of a ship in the middle of the open ocean. The year is 1866. The stars are out. The sea is calm. And then, without any warning, something beneath the water begins to glow. It moves. It is massive. It is faster than any vessel ever built by human hands, and no one on Earth knows what it is. Sailors are calling it a sea monster. Governments are demanding answers. Scientists are arguing, and the world, the entire world, is terrified of what lurks beneath the surface. This is where Jules Verne's extraordinary novel begins. A story that is part adventure, part science, part philosophy, and completely breathtakingly ahead of its time. Today, we are diving, quite literally, into one of the greatest books ever written. This is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The story opens with a mystery that has gripped every major nation on Earth. For months, ships crossing the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans have been reporting something extraordinary. A creature, enormous in size, capable of producing a ghostly phosphorescent light beneath the waves and moving at speeds that make even the fastest naval vessel look like a toy. Some sailors claimed it rammed their ships. Some described a wake that stretched for miles behind it. Scientists have theories, but none of them hold up. The creature seems almost deliberate, almost intelligent. Our narrator and guide through this world is Professor Pierre Aronnax, a French marine biologist and a man of considerable scientific reputation. He works at the Natural History Museum in Paris. He is thoughtful, observant, and deeply curious, and when the United States government organizes an expedition aboard a naval frigate called the Abraham Lincoln to hunt down this mysterious creature and destroy it, Aronnax is invited to join. He doesn't hesitate. He brings along his loyal manservant, Conseil, the kind of man who catalogs everything, speaks with extraordinary politeness, and would follow his master off the edge of the world without complaint. The two of them board the ship together, joined by a third crucial character, Ned Land. Ned Land is Canadian, and he is the finest harpoonist alive. He is strong, stubborn, impulsive, and absolutely convinced that whatever this creature is, he can harpoon it. He represents something important in the story, the instinct of man to conquer what he does not understand. The Abraham Lincoln searches the Pacific for months. The crew grows restless. There are long stretches of nothing. And then, one night, the creature appears again. What follows is a chaotic encounter. The ship pursues the glowing thing at full speed. The creature outpaces them easily, almost mockingly. Then it turns. It comes back. And in a devastating collision that happens in an instant, Aronnax, Conseil, and Ned Land are thrown from the ship into the cold, dark water of the open Pacific. They cling to what they can. Hours pass. They are sure they are going to die. And then they feel it beneath them. Something solid. Not a rock, not a creature, something made of metal. They are standing on the hull of a submarine. The hatch opens. They are taken inside. And with that, Jules Verne introduces us to one of the most unforgettable characters in all of literature, Captain Nemo. His name, fittingly, is Latin for no one. He is tall, cold, and impossibly controlled. He speaks with precision. He reveals nothing about himself willingly. He tells Aronnax and the others almost immediately that they are his prisoners, not prisoners treated with cruelty, but prisoners who will never leave because they know too much about his submarine and his existence. The submarine is called the Nautilus, and it is, by any measure, a wonder of the world. Verne describes it in extraordinary detail. The Nautilus is nearly 70 meters long. It is powered by electricity, which Nemo extracts from sodium and mercury cells using the sea itself. It generates its own air, its own light, its own food. The crew eats only what the ocean provides: fish, mollusks, seaweed, an entirely marine diet that Nemo speaks about with obvious pride. The library aboard contains 12,000 volumes. There are priceless paintings on the walls. There are coral sculptures and rare treasures pulled from the deep. Nemo has built not just a ship, but a world, a complete self-contained civilization that owes nothing to the surface. What follows is one of the most expansive and spectacular journeys in all of fiction. Aronnax becomes Nemo's reluctant student and companion. The captain takes the Nautilus on a route that covers almost every major ocean on Earth. They walk on the floor of the Pacific in diving suits, hunting with air rifles in an underwater forest with a light filters through the water like sunlight through cathedral glass. Aronnax is in a state of permanent wonder, cataloging every creature he sees with scientific joy. They navigate through the Torres Strait between Australia and New Guinea, a notoriously dangerous passage full of reefs, and Nemo handles it with complete calm, as if he is reading a map he wrote himself. They stop at an underwater island, a volcano rising from the ocean floor, and watch in awe as lava pours silently into the sea. They discover an underwater coal mine beneath the ocean bed, and Nemo explains that the sea provides him with fuel, just as it provides him with everything else. He does not need the world of men. He has left it behind entirely. The pass through the Indian Ocean, and Nemo shows Aronnax the treasure of Vigo Bay, countless gold and silver artifacts from Spanish ships that sank centuries ago. Aronnax wonders what Nemo does with all this wealth. The answer will become clearer later. In one of the most quietly beautiful passages of the book, Nemo takes Aronnax to Atlantis, or rather, to what he believes are the ruins of the lost continent lying on the floor of the Atlantic. He says nothing. He simply shines a light on ancient columns and crumbling walls and lets Aronnax draw his own conclusions. It is a scene of pure, wordless awe. The Nautilus plunges south toward the Antarctic, a place where, in 1866, no human being had ever gone. Nemo navigates under the ice shelf, a suffocating, claustrophobic journey where the ceiling of ice grows lower and lower and the air grows thin. The crew wears oxygen equipment inside the submarine itself. There is a moment where the ship becomes completely trapped. Ice above, ice around, ice closing in on all sides. The crew works in shifts to chip away at it, exhausted, running out of air. Even Nemo seems briefly uncertain. They escape, and when they surface at the South Pole, Nemo stands on the ice and plants his flag, not the flag of any nation, but his own, and declares the South Pole his discovery, his alone. It is both magnificent and deeply unsettling. A man so brilliant, so free, and yet so alone. Who is this man? Verne gives us fragments throughout the novel, and it is the accumulating weight of those fragments that makes Nemo so compelling. He clearly despises certain nations and certain powers. When the Nautilus encounters a warship of a particular country, Verne is deliberately vague. Nemo's calm exterior shatters entirely. He rams it, he sinks it, and then he locks himself in his cabin and weeps. This moment is the emotional core of the book. Nemo is not simply a recluse or an eccentric. He is a man in enormous pain. Something was done to him, something was taken from him, and he has chosen the ocean as his exile, his revenge, and his sanctuary. Aronnax is moved by this complexity. Here is a man of extraordinary intelligence, genuine love for the natural world, and deep moral passion, and yet capable of violence that cannot be easily excused. Aronnax does not know what to think, and Verne, brilliantly, does not resolve it for him. While Aronnax marvels at everything around him, Ned Land is quietly going mad. He was not built for captivity, no matter how beautiful the cage. He wants to go home. He wants solid ground, real food, real sky, real freedom. He is the practical, earthly counterpoint to Nemo's otherworldly genius. And he is right. However magnificent the Nautilus is, the three men are still prisoners. They did not choose this life. Nemo chose it for them. Ned begins planning an escape, and Aronnax, though he is half in love with the life beneath the sea, cannot in good conscience refuse. The novel builds toward its conclusion with one final, terrifying sequence. The Nautilus becomes entangled in a massive whirlpool off the coast of Norway, a real geographical phenomenon called the Maelstrom, a great churning vortex of ocean water that swallows everything it touches. The submarine is caught in its grip and begins to spiral downward. The chaos is total. Aronnax loses consciousness. He wakes up on a small island off the Norwegian coast. Conseil and Ned Land are beside him. The Nautilus and Nemo are gone. He doesn't know if Nemo survived. He doesn't know if the submarine escaped or sank. And Verne, in a choice that is simultaneously frustrating and profound, gives us no answer. Aronnax is left with thousands of pages of scientific notes, an extraordinary collection of memories, and a question he will carry for the rest of his life. Who was Nemo really? What happened to him? And is he still down there, in the darkness beneath the sea, moving in silence through a world that will never fully know him?
Here is a remarkable fact. Jules Verne published this novel in 1870. The first real submarine capable of genuine ocean travel wouldn't exist for another 30 years. The South Pole wasn't reached by any human being until 1911, more than 40 decades later. Electricity was still a novelty. The deep ocean was almost entirely unmapped, unexplored, and unknown. And yet, Verne imagined all of it. He imagined it with such precision and such detail that engineers in the 20th century would look back at the Nautilus and see something close to a blueprint. But the book's relevance today goes well beyond prediction. We live in an age obsessed with the idea of escape, of building our own world, of disconnecting from systems we didn't choose and don't trust. Nemo is the patron saint of that impulse, the man who said no to civilization and built something better for himself beneath the sea. In an age of political disillusionment, environmental grief, and digital overload, his choice doesn't feel as strange as it once might have. The ocean itself has become more important, not less, in our modern understanding of the world. Climate science, deep-sea biology, ocean conservation. The sea is no longer just a backdrop for adventure stories. It is a system we are only beginning to understand and are already threatening. Verne was a prophet of its importance long before we had the language to explain it. And then there is Nemo himself, a man who is both brilliant and broken, both admirable and dangerous. We live in a world full of such men, geniuses who operate outside normal rules, who accumulate power and resources and owe allegiance to no one. Verne didn't romanticize Nemo blindly. He asked us to look at him clearly, to admire what is admirable, and to be troubled by what is troubling. That is not a lesson that ages. That is simply wisdom. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is not just a story about a submarine and a mysterious captain. It is a story about the human need to explore, to understand, and to escape. It is about what happens when a brilliant mind turns away from the world, and about the cost of that turning. Captain Nemo chose the ocean because the surface world had wounded him beyond repair. And in that choice, he found both freedom and a kind of magnificent loneliness that Verne never lets us forget. We are left, like Aronnax, staring at the water, wondering what lies beneath, wondering if there are worlds still hidden from us, still waiting to be discovered, wondering what kind of life we would build if we could build it anywhere, completely on our own terms. Jules Verne wrote this book over 150 years ago, and somehow it is still asking us questions we haven't answered yet. Until next time.